What is going on, guys? We are back with another episode of our trade breakdown series. In today's episode, I'm going to be walking you guys through exactly how I made over $3,600 and returned over 800% trading puts on the semiconductor ETF, the SMH. I'm going to walk you through this trade step by step and show you exactly why I took this so you can utilize it in the future. Let's get into it right now. All right, guys, welcome back to another episode. As always, if you guys are enjoying these videos, make sure to leave us a like, as that does help out the videos a ton. And per usual, guys, this was recorded and traded live inside the Discord. If you're interested in coming and trying out the chat, you can use the code AVGO25 and take 25% off your first month inside the room. We'll see you guys there. Now, let's get straight into this recap on the SMH, guys. Now, like I said, this was an absolutely huge opportunity this past week, guys. And as always, I like to start out these videos by showing you guys exactly why I was looking at taking this trade in the first place, right? In any trade recap, the most important thing, guys, is to understand why you are looking at the trade in the first place, understanding your risk, understanding your targets. And in this case on the SMH, guys, we had a beautiful short opportunity here as we were coming into major weekly resistance. As you guys know, higher time frames are king. The higher the time frame, the higher the conviction going into the trade. Now, in this case on the SMH, guys, we had this very strong weekly resistance here that we've kind of been trending in throughout this year, right? As you guys can see, we made that high at 161 back in late July and early August. We sold off from that. We tested up into this trend again, and we actually got our third test of this trend here, guys, into the second week of October. Now, I had been preaching to the room, guys, that I was going to be looking for a short entry into that trend Thursday into Friday. And we actually got a beautiful opportunity on Thursday, guys, trading this. And then I actually swung some puts into Friday, added to my position Friday morning. And we actually ended up closing these for over 800% later on Friday. So let's go through exactly why I took this position and why I held it in through Friday and ended up returning such a huge amount on this trade. So if we walk through the SMH, guys, first thing you have to understand, I was trading the semiconductor ETF because it had relative weakness to the overall market, right? So while the S&P 500 was down, 0.5%, and the QQQ, the tag index, was down 1% on Friday, the SMH was actually down over 2.5%. And as traders, we like to be shorting relative weakness and longing relative strength, because who wants to make their life harder? I certainly don't. So in this case, guys, I was targeting the relative weakness on the SMH, and we actually had the 4-hour set up in sell side liquidity, right? So if we look at the SMH on the 4-hour, guys, we had a beautiful 4-hour liquidity trap occur on Thursday, right? If you look at this hourly 4-hour candle on Thursday, October 12th, you guys can see that we swept liquidity over that 152.6 area, and we actually just kind of kept bumping into that resistance, right? And what this does, guys, is when we see a chart like this extend and actually sweep liquidity on a higher time frame like this, like on the 4-hour, my bias now shifts to the short side, right? Because I know that that's brought in buyers above a key resistance. In this case, we rejected directly off that weekly trend. And going into Friday, guys, I hosted a free live stream where I talked about the fact that all of these charts, right? And you have to understand the semiconductor ETF has components from AMD, AVGO, NVIDIA, right? So it's very important to understand the structure of those charts, and the structure of those charts played a key role into me adding to that SMH position and holding it through the day on Friday. One of the charts that I'm going to cover as we go into Friday is actually AVGO. Now, coincidentally, I actually traded this for over a 1,000% return on the long side on Thursday. Yes, it was an absolutely crazy week, guys. No, that doesn't happen every single week. But I had already had this chart on my radar because I traded it on Thursday. And look what we had here at market open on Friday, guys. We had a very strong short signal, We had AVGO actually sweep its opening liquidity above its all-time high. If you look at the AVGO daily chart, guys, it swept liquidity above its prior all-time high at 917. And what does that mean, right? We brought in buyers above Thursday's highs, right? You guys can see we opened up, ripped above Thursday's highs. They sold that move off, and look at how this first hourly candle printed, right? We took in liquidity above those highs. That trapped buyers, right, above resistance that thought we were going to break out. That actually creates additional downward selling pressure, and that is the entire basis of my system, guys. And look what happened once that happened, right? We saw a $20 move down from this hourly close, guys. At that 900 level, we bottomed out around this 883 area. But once I saw AVGO sweep that first hourly liquidity, guys, I actually tweeted out to my Discord that I was holding, my only position was going to be on these SMH puts. I now had 50 contracts at a $20 per contract average on the SMH 150 puts, right? So not only did AVGO have sell side structure set up into the day on Friday, right after market open, we saw NVIDIA do the exact same thing, guys. If we look at the NVIDIA hourly, right, we saw NVIDIA sweep liquidity above 470, right, trapped buyers above, and look at it, ended up selling off an additional 20 points. The chipped sector offers some amazing opportunities. So if you guys haven't explored trading it, I personally love trading these names, NVIDIA, AVGO, etc. And one way that I really like to trade it is if I notice a lot of those charts have a certain confluence to them, a strong bias. And in this case, there was strong sell side setups on both NVIDIA, AVGO, and AMD, right? We had a massive hourly head and shoulders on AMD going into Friday, which we traded and actually mentioned on that free live stream on the pre-market live in the morning, right? We had this beautiful setup on AMD, which ended up fading, traded that as well. Beautiful. But one way that I like to gain exposure on the short side is via trading the SMH. I know the levels well, I know the liquidity points well, and I really enjoy trading it on a daily basis. So like I said, in this case, guys, the SMH stalled at that 150 260 resistance. Now, how do I know that that is my key resistance level, right? Well, look at the highs on these 4-hour candles, right? On Thursday, right? You can clearly see hourly high on this candle, 152.50. Hourly high on this candle, 152.50 again, right? And so we noticed a lot of really strong resistance at that level, guys. And then look how the open treated the SMH, right? We stalled right at that 152.60 resistance. So my bias was still absolutely on the short side here. And again, going into this 10:30 candle close, tweeted out only position I was going to hold 50 of these SMH 150 puts. I was already up handsomely, up almost 98%, guys. Now, as always with a 0 DTE position like this, guys, I was smaller in size. I don't trade 0 DTE very often unless I really think there's a lot of potential for a major return. And in this case, guys, when I saw we topped out at that 152.60 resistance from Thursday, we had AVGO, AMD, and NVIDIA all in very high confidence sell side structures. This was a no-brainer for me, guys, truly. And that was, part of the reason that I was able to hold this trade for over 800% in gains. Now, I want to show you guys exactly how I scaled out of this position and why I scaled out of position at the points that I did, right? Now, my first target on this trade, once we rejected Thursday's high, was going to be Thursday's low of the day. If you guys know me, you guys know how big I am on prior day's levels. And in this case, I really wanted to make sure that I was taking profits at Thursday's low, at least 1/3 to 1/2 of my position. So in this case, as you can see here, guys, I took off 20 of 55 contracts on the SMH, up 200%. Now this was at 10:58 a.m., right? So if we come out here and we look, let's look exactly where that was, 10:58, right? So we really had a nice test of this 150.69 area when we were testing Thursday's low, our prior day's low of day. I was making sure to be taking proactive profits, right? So I took off 20 of 55 contracts on that test of 150.69. And then look what happened, guys, on the following 15-minute candle. We got an absolutely massive move. Now, when we did that, I actually bought some additional AMD puts, which ended up printing over 200%. Crazy day on Friday, guys, truly. And then right here, guys, I scaled about 70% of my position into this massive extension candle to the downside. So once we broke Thursday's low, right? We made a new low on Friday. I scaled a lot of my position into this 150 level. Now, 150 is a major psychological support level, right? And when I see those major psychological supports, I personally like to trim my position into those. That's just personal preference. It's really up to you. But if you look at the hourly and 4-hour charts, guys, we had a lot of room down to this point, all the way down to that prior support down here at 149.47. So this was going to be my next area that I wanted to be trimming. So as we know, guys, before you enter a trade, you need to have all of your levels marked out, exactly where you want to take profits. And in my case, I like to set 3 take profit points. So in this case, on this trade, my take profit points were Thursday's low, 159.60, right? that 149.50 support, right, from the prior week. And then I really was targeting a retest of that major breakout area from the first week of October at 147. Now, we didn't get quite to 147, guys, so I ended up actually scaling the majority of the rest of my position, guys, at over 800% in gains. Guys, if you look here on the SMH, you can see right here, I'm going to go to this afternoon. We had SMH and AMD puts both in the money at this point, guys. Those SMH puts were over 800%. And this was where I scaled. Like I said here, I had 7 runners left, 737% at 2:17 in the afternoon. And guys, really, this was just a fantastic and clean setup. And we had so much confluence. And we talked about having the conviction to hold your winners, right? Now, how was I able to let this trade run 747%, right? Without selling all of it? Guys, when you have conviction in your charts, when you have conviction in your process, right? And you can utilize break-even stops. On this trade, guys, once I'm over 100% in profit, traditionally, when I'm over 30% in profit on a position, my stop loss now moves up to my entry. And what that allows me to do is hold a portion of my position for the full move, right? And in this case, guys, like I put out on Twitter, in this case, when I was up 800%, that turned the $244 of risk that I had into this position into over $2,000, guys. That is an absolutely insane return, one that truly illustrates the power of options and the power of high conviction A+ setups. I hope you guys took something out of this trade recap video. If you'd like to see more, leave us a reply, letting us know what you want to see, and make sure to leave this video a like. I'll see you guys inside the chat, and I hope you enjoyed the recap. Peace.